Welcome. Happy to have you here, Sam. And well, for everyone in the audience, Sam Peterson, former U.S. Army squad member or team member from the Navy, and also CEO, founder from MindPath. Today, we'll learn more about how you support veterans and some of their mental health. So please feel free to give an intro of yourself, Sam, and how you are changing lives.
Oh, yeah. So my name's Sam Peterson. I used to be a team leader on the bomb squad in the U.S. Army. I've got two combat deployments under my belt and then another deployment as a contractor over to Afghanistan. And being a bomb technician was one of my favorite things in the world. It is the most fun I've ever had at any job. But the thing that they don't tell you about being on the bomb squad is how high the suicide rate is. And that bumped into me very, very hard after my second deployment. And it started to kill off my friends. We were losing EOD team leaders like flies because we were constantly exposed to traumatic blasts, and those effects are cumulative. So instead of waiting for the Army or the VA to do something about it, after I lost one of my mentors to suicide, decided to start a number of companies centered around the idea of treating mental health more effectively by getting to the root cause, what's exactly going on in the brain in these individuals who have suffered from TBI, PTSD, depression, and anxiety. And we've done that. So we've created a number of programs that are designed to get to that root cause and are showing really fantastic results at treating these things pretty damn quickly.
Great. Thank you for providing some more insights into your background and what brought you up to providing this solution or this treatment that you have in place through MindSpat. So one of the things that probably are worthwhile reviewing today, talking about regarding the treatment or program you have here to offer and support others, is a Tricare Inner Armor program. So feel free to provide any specific things that are relevant that will help others learn and how it works.
Yeah. So what we did is we put together some of the most effective mental health treatments available for depression, anxiety, brain injuries, and PTSD, and we put them into one protocol. So we use a combination of ketamine infusion therapy, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and transcranial magnetic stimulation, along with culturally competent talk therapy. So it's four legs of the stool. And what these things do very basically is they help heal and rewire the brain. Because when someone is suffering from any of those conditions, there is an inflammatory process going on in the brain that no one can see. It can be difficult to measure without advanced imaging. And what we are doing with this protocol is downregulating inflammation in the brain, increasing cellular energy production, and then telling our brain cells where we want them to cluster. Because if you look at these issues using advanced imaging, what you'll see is an underactive prefrontal cortex and an overactive hindbrain. So the part of you that you think of as yourself, your executive functioning centers, are underactive. So they're not able to provide the brakes when you start spinning out, like going into a panic episode or getting stuck in a depressive episode. And so what we've done is we've taken all of these treatments, put them into one, and what we're seeing is an average reduction in symptomology, almost a complete reduction in symptomology within 14 to 17 days.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks a lot for providing how it works and those insights. And interesting to learn, right? Sometimes we assume like, okay, if it's something related to mental health, there's not really physical way to know something's going on. But as you mentioned, like reducing the inflammation and helping along with the treatment, that's part of the things you are working on and providing some relief. Thanks. So I saw also on your website you offer lots of information, which is great to know for anyone in the audience. We're sharing below the links to your socials and other information so they can learn. But there's blogs, there's FAQs, the services, and specifically they provide more insights and depth knowledge on how they work, who is the treatment for, and how it can work for others. I understand these can be used for veterans, first responders, but as well for their families. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we are in network with most of the major insurance companies, and we are able to serve family members as well. So we're really trying to provide wraparound services to the whole family unit.
Perfect. And it totally makes sense to do it in this more integral way, holistic support, because obviously families are also somewhat, I don't know the term specifically how to put it, but yeah, they are affected, right?
Traumatized.
For the same. Totally.
Traumatized.
Yes, yeah, I know it's sometimes we just figure out or think of the person that, like you yourself, you were there. The situation obviously is way more complex and harder, but still for your family it trickles down, and it's interesting to learn. And I know you're based in Denver, Colorado. So what's the reach you have, and also if there's any type of hubs or maybe partnerships you have to cover other regions? That's one of the questions, and the follow-up would be any type of telehealth services too.
Yeah, so we provide telehealth services. We can provide therapy services to anyone in the country through some of our therapists. But as far as the treatments go themselves, you kind of have to be in person to get into a hyperbaric chamber. That's not something we can just fly straight to your door yet. But we're actively working on expanding our reach so that we can help more people in, not only rural areas but different parts of the state and different parts of the country. But right now the clinic is just smack dab in South Denver, and we're doing everything we can to create options for housing and things like that so we can bring in people from out of state.
Great, that's great to know, and well, it makes obviously total sense. It has to be like in-person treatment. And one of the questions that I had for your inner armor program, you mentioned there's like the magnetic stimulation, there's a hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and the ketamine infusion. So it's the three of them come together, and that's what makes the overall program successful.
Yeah. So it is those three things working synergistically together. So, I touched on the inflammation issue in the brain. So why we use those three in conjunction is, first of all, ketamine downregulates inflammation in the brain, so it can help you get more blood flow to areas of your brain that have been shunted off by inflammation. It also increases what's called neuroplasticity, which is how your neurons branch out and create new connections. Think about it like this. Anytime we're in a depressive or an anxious thought pattern, we're running a loop. And your neurons are wired for that loop. And what we're trying to do in all of mental health is rewire the brain. So we're providing different pathways for your brain to branch out and create these new thought patterns. So ketamine starts that process by taking that inflammation down, which typically relieves depression, anxiety, PTSD, and TBI symptoms for a short period of time. So we can take someone who's had very acute symptoms for a very long period of time and bring the noise down in their brain very quickly within a week, but sometimes two, depending on how acute the symptoms are. And then we use hyperbaric oxygen therapy to, one, increase stem cell production in the body and the brain, two, to down-regulate that inflammation even more, and three, and I think this is what we're going to find is the most important piece of this, is that we're increasing the amount of energy that your cells can produce. So if you go back to like 7th grade biology, you know that all of our cells run on ATP, adenosine triphosphate. That molecule requires glucose on the front end and oxygen on the back end to complete what's called the Krebs cycle. So to complete its production, it needs those two ingredients. If we don't have enough oxygen, we can't make more ATP through that process. Our cells have to switch over to what's called anaerobic glycolysis to make energy. That's how cancer cells make energy. It causes a lot of inflammation. It causes a lot of downstream problems in the brain. So if we can get more oxygen into the system itself, we can create more energy. Because what we're asking the brain to do is a pretty heavy lift. We're asking it to create new pathways. Think of this like paving a road. You're not going to be able to pave a road unless you have a crew, some machines, the asphalt to pave that road. So we're providing all of these building blocks simultaneously. And then what the transcranial magnetic stimulation is doing is we're using a magnetic field that's able to penetrate the brain, and we're telling those cells where we want that road paved. So we're saying, hey, this part of the brain is underactive, so I want you guys to cluster right here. So for depression, the treatment site is the what's called the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And the cool thing is the treatment for anxiety and PTSD is just the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. So in a single 30-minute session, we can hit both of those areas and simultaneously rebalance the brain towards a better state and a better outcome for the patient. And then these other treatments are providing all the materials that we need to make those new pathways.
Perfect. I love that analogy you used to explain it. So thank you, thanks Sam. That helps understand better how it works, and all those terms we learned from biology as well. They ring a bell. So thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks a lot for for diving into like more of the scientific portion and how things work in our brains and from a biological standpoint too. And I know as well there's specific things to qualify for the program. So if there's anything
Mhm.
you want to pinpoint or mention, go ahead too.
Yeah, so our Inner Armor program is available to anybody who wants it, but there are certain insurance plans that are able to cover more of it. So our best option for folks is our Tricare program. So using Tricare to cover the Inner Armor program, all you have to do is qualify for TMS. And qualifying for TMS means failing 3 antidepressant medications. And so if you've done that, if you've failed 3 antidepressant medications, Tricare will cover your TMS, and then we donate the hyperbaric and the ketamine to the patient. So the patient is still responsible for their copays, but they're receiving $20,000 plus of treatment for about $1,500. And if they're in the state of Colorado, there are also grants available that can help cover that copay. So we're looking at a program here that for military veterans who are suffering from these issues, they could potentially be out of pocket almost nothing and receive $20,000 of regenerative medicine protocols at very little cost.
That's great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And obviously, if someone wants to learn more or ask specific questions, we have below your information to contact you. Also, your website, there's lots of information to learn from. So thanks for covering that specific question at hand. And I know visiting your website, there's a patient portal. So I just want to confirm or check for anyone listening, and if they are part of your program, what is in that portal, if there's something or will be something in its place to support them. I guess it's part of the journey and the materials they have at hand, right?
Yeah, so our patient portal is designed to connect directly to your provider to ask for things like med refills, changes to medications, that sort of thing, and then to keep you connected to the practice, make sure you get appointment updates, all of that stuff. It's all right there in a central hub, so it makes it easy for everyone to communicate with us and for us to communicate with them.
Perfect. Okay, that's good to know, because sometimes there's lots of disconnect and it's a bit of burden on following up and making sure things are or where to go to get like a refill and whatnot. So perfect. Thanks for letting us know too. And well, we or I find one of the key things that will be interesting to know, we have your background story, and did you have to, like, how did you get into this specific um, business, let's say, that obviously is helping others on what you went through, just maybe to have a bit of those insights, or what sparked that within you.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that myself and my co-founder started this business was because of pain. Seeing the amount of suffering going on in the veteran and first responder community was not something that we could deal with. And, kind of stepping back to when I got out of the Army, there wasn't a centralized place to get all of these treatments under one roof. I had to go get all of these things myself and go to 4 different practices. It was incredibly inconvenient, a lot of drive time, and I was only able to do one at a time. And what we've learned from the biology of the brain is that we get the most bang for our buck when we do these things consecutively. So this became a mission out of necessity, just because people were dying left and right in my life. And it soon became validated because we saw these amazing results as soon as we put everything together. And that's there's also a convenience component to mental health. If you are in the throes of depression, anxiety, PTSD, or you have a TBI and you're having headaches every day, the last thing that you have bandwidth for is driving to 4 different places, filling out forms, interacting with new people who aren't talking to each other. It's a huge drain. And one of the biggest issues with these conditions is that the amount of cognitive capacity that the patient has is greatly diminished because executive functioning is diminished. So part of good treatment is the creation of a convenient and interconnected practice.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam. And another thing that I want to know, what are your thoughts on technology's role and how this comes into play on what you're currently offering, and if there's anything either like currently or within the roadmap to support even in a more, in a broader manner, the patient's journey, or overall, like from your standpoint, like if there's anything that will, let's say, help with your operational side of things, and then you can focus more on expanding your reach, on educating, on empowering others.
Yeah, technology plays a huge role in the treatment of mental health, especially now. The next decade is about to be the most exciting in the field of psychiatry that really the entire field has ever had. We're seeing things like psychedelic medicine come to the forefront and able to treat things like addiction with ibogaine. We're seeing TMS machines get smaller, more compact, and more mobile so that we can increase that convenience factor even more. We're seeing things like hyperbaric chambers get smaller and more affordable. So there's this real renaissance in brain treatment that's happening right now. And that is all a part of the technology stack that we use to treat evolving, which is incredibly, uh, makes me hopeful for the future. Because the way we used to do things, that traditional medical model of talk therapy and medication management, it just doesn't cut it anymore. And we are coming to that realization collectively, and we're slowly starting to move the battleship of clinical practice guidelines towards what is actually going to make people better faster and keep them better longer.
Yes, totally on point. I agree with what you're mentioning, Sam. And I know it's almost time to wrap up, but probably just to finalize, from your experience, from who you are, is there anything specific that will help others that are going through some anxiety, depression, trauma that might help them make the call? They should seek treatment, some help. I think maybe it's an assumption, something wrong on my end, a bias I have, but like if you're someone within the army or a veteran, you're like tough enough and you might not even need support, right? But so it's totally not the thing exactly. So go ahead, Sam. Please share with us.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I think people need to understand, especially if this has been a chronic issue, is that there is something physiologically going on in your brain. There is an inflammatory process that is keeping you from being the person you want to be. If you broke your arm, would you have any scruples about going and getting a cast? No. The biggest problem with mental health, and this is slowly eroding, but never fast enough, the biggest problem with mental health is this stigma that surrounds it. We have been taught, especially our generation, we have been taught that a mental health diagnosis is a scarlet letter that gets branded onto your forehead, and you are stuck with that thing for the rest of your life. That has been the messaging that we have received. And the reason for that is ineffective treatment, because if you treat something ineffectively, don't get to the root cause, yeah, it's going to stick around because there is that inflammatory process that's going on in the brain that hasn't been addressed. So my message to folks is stop waiting. People get hung up on the cost and the time it takes to get mental health treatment. Just do a quick inventory of how many hours a day you waste worrying incessantly, getting stuck in a depression hole, laying in bed and unable to get out, panicking about something that doesn't need to be panicked about, sitting in the dark because you have a migraine. Add that time up. What could you be doing with that time? What could you accomplish if you didn't have these lead weights around your brain keeping you from being the person you want to be? So get out of your own way, realize that there are treatments that can help. Like I've named 4 of them right now, and that's by no means an exhaustive list. But do your future self a favor and take care of yourself now, because if you don't put your gas mask on first, no one else is going to do it for you.
Thank you, Sam. Great words. And yes, the best time to take action or do something is now, today. So why waste time? And there's nothing wrong of waiting, or this is a wake up call. So take action, do what's best for your mental health. And there's lots of resources and opportunities like Sam just mentioned. So thanks, Sam, for being with us today. We're sharing all the information below so anyone can follow up and ask any questions to you.
Awesome.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, you too.